Welcome. This is part 2 of my video on how to start to layer the surface of your tile. So I have made my pig and my tile and I cut it out. Both items are still fairly wet. The pig is wet enough that I can bend it a little bit. So my next step is taking a look at my picture and deciding what is going to pop out more. So if I look at my picture, his nose is definitely the thing that is standing out the most. And then, further back on his face, his snout, his eyes a little bit, ears a tiny bit, but the ears are pretty much far back. So what I want to do, and this is backwards from the original image, I would like to give the ears a little bit of movement. If we look at the image, his ears are not flat, right? They have some dimensionality to them, some curve to them. So while the clay is still wet, you need to make any changes that you would like to see happen. That might mean curving the clay forward, or if you are making something that has some roundness to it this way, it might mean kind of doming the clay. So if you were making petals or something like that, your clay might twist a different way. The other thing I want to pay attention to is creating some softness on the edges here so that it doesn't just feel like it's a piece of cut out clay, but it has that same softness that the ear would have. So I'm gently pinching it. I'm not going to start carving into it yet. And I have not attached it yet either because I'm still kind of molding it. I don't want to attach it yet. Depending on your particular composition, it might require you to attach things or be okay to attach things more quickly. But because this is one big piece, if I attach it, I won't be able to work with it as much. The other thing I'm going to do is try to push the legs back. As you can see, the face is coming forward. The legs are sort of on the in the middle ground. So I'm going to take and use my fingers to start pressing the legs back a little bit so that they're not on the same plane as the rest of the face. So it really feels like we're looking at a dimensional pig. So once I've kind of figured out the basics of what I want to do with this pig, I certainly can attach him. So I feel like I'm ready to attach him. And what I'm going to do is carefully lift him up because he has gotten a little bit delicate from me working with him. And I'm going to outline using my needle tool, or if you are at home, you are going to have to use your bamboo skewer. So here's my bamboo skewer. You might have one that's a little bit shorter than this, and I'm just going to outline right where he goes. Then I'm going to carefully lift him off and set him on my bag or something kind of gentle. And I'm going to take my bamboo skewer and I'm going to score this surface. Remember, scoring is roughing up the surface in order to create an attachment. You want to go multiple directions. And you want to address the entire surface. All right, so I sped up a little bit here and I finished scoring my entire surface. Notice my lines are going multiple directions. I also scored the back of the piece that's going to be attached, my pig, very carefully. And now I am going to apply my slip. I like to use my toothbrush to do this. It's a little easier to get into the nooks and crannies, but you certainly can use your finger if you do not have a toothbrush available. Hopefully your slip is nice and liquidy at this point. It should be kind of the thickness of like a milkshake. And I'm going to spread it on my piece. A well-attached piece will also improve the strength, so it will be less likely to crack off or have cracks to begin with. And you want to make sure that the clay is at a similar moisture level, so you don't want to be attaching a very, very dry piece to a really wet piece or vice versa. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of my slip mixture to my pig. So the first step is really forming the piece, kind of shaping the edges, smoothing it while it's still wet. And I recommend any kind of carving or detail work as it firms up. So now I'm going to flip a little piggy over. All right, so there's one more step I'm going to show you in this video, and that is how to make additional attachments. So I have a piece of clay here that I've rolled out using my rulers, but it's still a little bit thick. I actually want it to be a bit thinner, so about half this thinness, and my rulers aren't going to work for that job. So I'm going to set these aside, and I'm going to just use, now that I've used my rulers and it's even, I can just try to apply even pressure to roll this out. So it's quite a bit thinner now. And then I took my tracing paper with my pig on it, and I retraced an area that I wanted to stand out more than the other. So I knew that I wanted the nose to stand out more, but my ink lines had kind of faded. So I traced it again with a darker marker. You can use the same marker. My first marker didn't work that well. So now what I'm going to do is reapply this to the clay. And I'm just, again, rubbing it so it really transfers. And as you can see, this transfer worked much better than my first transfer. So now I'm just going to cut out this nose and attach it. So I've cut the nose out, and I kind of took a little bit of the clay out of the nostrils so that they have some depth to them. And I am, again, going to slip and score. So I'm using a rib in the classroom to do my scoring, which is a little quicker than your bamboo skewer, but that is a perfectly acceptable way to score as well. All right, so my next step is to let this firm up a little bit, and then I'm going to come in and continue to shape it. I'm going to work on rounding the face. I will use my homemade carving tool to start removing some of the excess clay to create more levels, because right now I really have two main levels. So check back in for the next video.